Many of them are. And they haven't had a new idea. But Barack Obama and the progressive left's idea really comes from about 1848 with Karl Marx and socialism. That's
not a new idea.
Yeah, that's not a new idea. I think that's actually the oldest idea known to mankind. And what they think is that we're arguing to go back to 1990 or Ronald Reagan. We're not.
Yeah.
We're arguing that the states should be empowered because this giant government doesn't work. You can't afford it.
Yeah.
It doesn't work. And so you dismantle the government and bring the control local there.
One of the things that we're arguing for is a set of principles that have proven to be successful across time. They keep changing the principles. We don't care if technology changes, but the founders, that's what's so cool about the Constitution. It doesn't deal with specifics, it deals with principles. Therefore, it's timeless. It works as well today, 230 years later, as it did back then, because it's principle-driven. Now, over that time, we found that those principles work. We want to go back to those principles, including, we were talking about democracy, republic, and the American Republic, in addition to being a republic, we are a federal constitutional republic, and a federal republic means that we share power evenly with the states, and that's what we don't do anymore.
Who here has, raise your hand if you, I'm going to give you several choices. Raise your hand if you think the Soviet Union was just a failed state. Raise your hand if you think the Soviet Union was a bad state. Kind of one. Raise your hand if you think the Soviet Union was evil. Okay, not everybody, but most. To me, the problem is once we defeated communism, we stopped thinking about communism. They just changed uniform.
That's right.
Putin, have you ever seen? Have you ever watched? Next time you watch Vladimir Putin on TV, the president or what is he now, the prime minister of Russia, watch the way he walks. Has anybody ever noticed this? You've noticed it? He walks and he only swings one arm. Why would he only swing one arm when he walks? Who walks like that? What? KGB. Why does he have one? Because he's trained himself so long to keep your hand where your pistol is that he walks like this. Now that's bred into that guy, man. He has worked hard to make sure KGB principles. All he did was take off the colonel uniform and put on a suit and tie and say, I'm good. The problem with where we've let you down is we haven't taught enough about communism. It didn't go away. We thought it did. My whole life, has anybody spent any time at all growing up worried that nuclear missiles were going to come over the poles and obliterate all of us? Never? Terry, you did? Missiles? What? Do we have a microphone for? Yeah, go ahead, Terry.
Well, honestly, because I'm really heavy into history, so I with everything that I've read, I've always sat there and said, well, this could happen one day, because it's not completely over.
Right.
But
there were times when I was a kid, and I'm not alone. David, you probably did this too when you were a kid. You had a hard time going to sleep because you thought the missiles could come at any time.
Yeah.
I remember in 1980, I worked in Washington, D.C., and it was right after KAL 007. The Soviet Union shot down a jetliner, a 747, and it was filled with people. And we said I think we said it was an act of war, did we not? And I remember working in Washington, D.C. and looking at the Lincoln or the Washington Memorial thinking, I could be vaporized in the next 24 hours because the missiles will come here. It was a different time. And so when we defeated it, we moved past. Now there are people targeting you to try to teach you that democracy is what we are. We're not a democracy. Why is it bad to assume that we're a democracy? Let me rephrase that. Why would somebody want to change us from a republic to a democracy? Peter, do we have a mic over here? Let me have this. Peter.
Because a republic is ruled by law and a democracy is ruled by the majority. The leaders could just manipulate the majority to do what they want.
Yeah, but wouldn't the people be smart enough to figure out what was going on?
Not always.
What about the Constitution? Can the Constitution change?
Yeah.
How? Who said that? Amendments. And how does the and why do they have the amendments in there? Why do they have that?
So that if they think that something should be, I guess, changed about the Constitution, they can vote it in an amendment.
What good? What happens if there's a bad amendment? Has there ever been a bad amendment?
It can be repealed.
It can be repealed. Okay. It's actually not repealed, is it? Is that technically repealing it, or is it amended again?
It's amended, but it in effect negates it.
Repealed. Yeah, it negates it. Here's what's interesting to me. Can anyone tell me, if you read the Constitution, you'll see that what was one amendment that was repealed? Prohibition. Right, exactly. Is the 18th Amendment still in the Constitution?
Yeah.
Why? Because the 21st got rid of it, but why? Bobby, why do you think it's still in there?
A reminder so that people can look back and see that we've made mistakes before and we have to learn from them.
You can barely see this on my hands because it happened when I was very young. But anybody see? You can see a scar that's right here on my hand. Can anybody see that scar? That was me being stupid as a kid, really stupid as a kid. And I was riding on the back of somebody's bike, and I had my hand on the handlebars, and we tipped, and we were going down a cement viaduct, a cement bridge, and we couldn't stop, and my hand dragged across that cement all the way, and it was down to the bone. It was nasty. The pain I would have forgotten. The only reason why I really remember that, because I was very small, is the scar. We remember the things in the Constitution. They were a genius. Remember the scar. Wasn't it Thomas Jefferson that said, people will make mistakes, but they will have, but I trust the American people when they realize it. They will.
He said the true corrective for all constitutional mistakes is education of the people. You rely on the people. He said they're going to make mistakes. The people will correct those mistakes.
Okay. Back in just a second. Hello, America. Back with David Barton of Wall Builders, our audience of teenagers, and we're talking about the difference between a republic and a democracy. And in a minute, I'm going to show you this. This is 1954 Air Force Training Manual. You will not believe what we used to teach and how that's all been erased. We'll do that here in a second. I want to actually, David, share this. This is from
1832, public school textbook by Noah Webster.
Now, this is school textbook.
School textbook. Now, he's called the schoolmaster to America, probably one of the three most significant American educators, and he's personally responsible for constitutional language, Article 1, Section 8.
Okay. Now, I want to show you what it says here. It says, the brief exposition of the Constitution of the United States will unfold to young persons the principles of republican government. And it is the sincere desire of the writer that our citizens should early understand that the genuine source of the correct Republican principles is the Bible, particularly the New Testament or the Christian religion. Now, how many would say, or have teachers or whoever, professors that you will meet down the road, and oh, you will meet them, that will say, this is a perversion of what America is. There's a separation between church and state. How many of you would say? Yeah. David, can you explain where we've gone wrong?
Partially, and it's in defining terms. Defining, one, what a republic is and what makes a republic. Two, in defining what separation of church is, why it's there, and what it's intended to do. And anytime you get away from original intent, you start perverting things to use them in ways they were never intended.
How many believe that that our founders put in a separation of church and state to protect the people from church? How many people here believe that it was separation of church and state means that that was put in there as a protection from of the church from state? Okay, and some are not sure. Is there another answer than that? Or you're just unsure? You'd say the other way around?